Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Barbara Sam. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. President Trump says U.S.-China trade deal is done. Final approval pending. Secretary Hegseth defends Marine deployment to L.A. amid Senate scrutiny. Deported illegal immigrant charged with attempted murder after Molotov cocktail attack on police during LA riots. President Trump open to reconciling with Elon Musk after public feud over federal spending bill. State attorneys general call on Meta to crack down on investment scams on Facebook. And now to the news. President Donald Trump announced Tuesday that a trade agreement between the United States and China is effectively complete, pending final approval from both himself and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The statement followed 2 days of high-level negotiations in London focused on critical minerals and education exchanges. Under the proposed deal, China will resume full exports of rare earth minerals and magnets vital for U.S. industries, while the U.S. will allow Chinese students to attend American universities. These agreements come after months of escalating tariffs and mutual accusations of non-compliance with earlier pacts. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick confirmed the framework agreement, stating that once both heads of state approve it, implementation will proceed. China's Vice Commerce Minister Li Qiang echoed this, citing progress based on a June 5th call between Trump and Xi and the Geneva Consensus. The deal marks a de-escalation in the ongoing trade dispute that earlier saw U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods rise to 145%, with reciprocal actions from Beijing. A temporary truce in May had reduced these rates and set a 90-day window for further negotiations, which culminated in this week's agreement. Watch this.
Both sides have agreed to a deal rolling back many of the punitive sanctions the countries put on each other in an escalating trade war over the past few months. President Trump posting on Truth Social this morning, "Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me. We will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities." He also said we are getting a total of 55% tariffs. China is getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. The deal comes after 2 days of negotiations in London, China and the U.S. essentially agreeing to return to the framework of a deal reached in Switzerland in May. That deal fell apart when China restricted shipments of magnets and rare earth minerals needed by U.S. manufacturers. The president said that issue has been resolved and the shipments will restart. President Trump and President Xi spoke by phone last week for 90 minutes, their first conversations since Mr. Trump returned to office in January. It's unclear whether this agreement will lead to a broader trade agreement between the two countries.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth faced questions on Capitol Hill Wednesday as he defended the deployment of the National Guard troops and active duty Marines to Los Angeles in response to ongoing protests. His testimony before Senate Appropriations Subcommittee came amid growing Democratic criticism over the administration's use of military force in domestic affairs. Senator Tammy Baldwin pressed Hegseth on the specific legal basis for sending Marines into a U.S. city. Hegseth said the administration had acted within constitutional limits, but was unable to immediately cite the provisions authorizing the use of active duty troops. He mentioned the Defense Department's office and General Counsel had reviewed and approved the actions. The White House had previously cited Section 12406 of Title 10 for the National Guard deployment, but has not yet offered a clear legal explanation for involving active duty Marines. The lack of clarity prompted further calls from lawmakers for transparency and restraint in using federal military forces on U.S. soil. The hearings follow President Trump's visit to Fort Bragg, where he marked the Army's 250th anniversary and reiterated his pledge to use the military to restore order in Los Angeles. Protesters were sparked by recent ICE raids, with demonstrations continuing across several U.S. cities. Watch this.
What is the current cost for what is taking place in California, and how is it going to affect this budget or the budget we're currently serving under? How much are these deployments going to cost for both the Marines and the National Guard? And what training or duties are not taking place because of these deployments? Where in your limited budget, sir, are you going to find, in the remainder of this fiscal year, are you going to pull the money to cover these deployments? What holes are being created?
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for the question. You are right. We are both originally from Minnesota, which is why I recall 2020 quite well, when Governor Walz abandoned a police precinct and allowed it to be burned to the ground, and also allowed 5 days of chaos to occur inside the streets of Minneapolis. The police precinct, ma'am, was abandoned and burned to the ground. And because of that, the National Guard was eventually far too late mobilized. And President Trump recognizes a situation like that, improperly handled by a governor, like it was by Governor Walz, if it gets out of control, is a bad situation for the citizens of any location. So in Los Angeles, we believe that ICE, which is a federal law enforcement agency, has the right to safely conduct operations in any state and any jurisdiction in the country, especially after 21 million illegals have crossed our border under the previous administration. ICE ought to be able to do its job, whether it's Minneapolis
Chairman,
or Los Angeles.
I have limited time. I asked a budget
and they
question.
Are being,
Could the Secretary please address the budget? Thank you.
You asked about the situation in Los Angeles, and we believe ICE agents should be allowed to be safe in doing their operations, and we have deployed National Guard and the Marines to protect them in the execution of their duties, because we ought to be able to enforce immigration law in this country, unlike what Governor Walz did in 2020. There are 17,000 LAPD, you mentioned that. There would be 18,000 if not for the defund movement that folks like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have implemented. The police chief said she was overwhelmed,
so we helped. If the Secretary is not going to ask the budgetary questions, I will yield back my time if the Secretary refuses to answer the budgetary questions I put before him. They're important. What training missions aren't happening? Where are you pulling the money from? And how are you planning this in the moving forward? These are budget questions that affect this committee and the decisions we're going to be making in a couple of hours. If you're not going to answer them, please let the chairman know, and I will take back my time. And I will.
Federal authorities announced Wednesday that a previously deported illegal immigrant from Mexico, Emilio Gargano Galvez, has been charged with attempted murder after allegedly throwing a Molotov cocktail at law enforcement during riots in Los Angeles on June 7th. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, said the attack occurred amid violent unrest in response to recent ICE operations across the city. Gargano Galvez, who has a prior criminal history including grand theft and DUI arrest, was taken into custody by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents. A video still released by DHS appears to show the Molotov cocktail mid-air aimed at officers during the incident. Officials emphasized that the suspect had re-entered the country illegally after a previous deportation. This criminal alien endangered the lives of federal officers during a violent riot, in quote, said DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. These are the individuals being shielded by rioters. If you attack law enforcement, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. ICE confirmed that Gargano Galvez is among hundreds of illegal immigrants arrested in Los Angeles last weekend, many with criminal records. Riots in Los Angeles have included assaults on officers, arson, looting, and damage to public buildings, including LAPD headquarters. DHS stated that its agents will continue enforcement efforts despite local resistance and criticized city leaders for undermining federal immigration law. ICE has released details on 19 other recent arrests involving suspects accused of crimes including rape, murder, and robbery. Let's take a look.
The Department of Homeland Security announced Wednesday that ICE had arrested Emiliano Gargano Galvez, on charges of attempted murder for throwing Molotov cocktails at law enforcement during the Los Angeles riots. Garduno Galvez is an illegal immigrant who had returned to the U.S. after previously being removed by ICE. DHS also stated he had a criminal record in the U.S. He was arrested by the Anaheim Police Department last year for charges of grand theft as well as a DUI by the Long Beach Police Department. DHS Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement, "These are the types of criminal illegal aliens that rioters are fighting to protect. The Los Angeles rioters will not stop us or slow us down. And if you lay a hand on a law enforcement officer, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law."
The news will be back after this break.
Money is the sign of shortage. Money is not the sign of blessing, it's the sign of shortage. Money is not the evidence of blessing, it is the evidence of shortage. It is the evidence of lack. I know nobody ever told you that. So you better listen to me now. I walk in absolute prosperity, so I can tell you, money is not the sign of prosperity, it's a sign of lack. It's a game that defines the classification of people. Once you are able to see beyond it and understand what God's plan is and who you are not controlled by money. Money becomes your slave. Somebody said, I wish I heard what Pastor just said in the month of May. Month of blessing, I would have applied it. You still have time. We carry all the blessings of the previous month into the new ones. That's what we do. Never let the thought of money control your attitude. Yes, sir. You know, there are people who become happy when they have money. And when they don't have it, you can tell. You just look at them, you can tell. You can tell they're broken down. Money's their master. They're worshiping the god of Mammon. When you are delivered from that, or when you've not been enslaved by that, you don't know when you've had money and when you've not had money, because you don't operate with those numbers. La korabakasaya, rabakanda lobosia. Are you still there?
Welcome back. President Donald Trump said he is open to reconciling with Elon Musk following their recent dispute over Trump's proposed federal spending package. In an interview on the debate episode of Pod Force One with Miranda Devine, Trump expressed disappointment, but said he holds, in quote, no hard feelings towards the Tesla and SpaceX CEO. The falling out came after Musk publicly criticized the legislation as excessive and wasteful. Musk, who had chaired the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, under Trump's administration with a mandate to cut $2 trillion in federal spending, resigned from his role on May 28th. Days later, Musk denounced Trump's big, beautiful bill on social media, calling it disgusting abomination and accusing lawmakers of irresponsible fiscal practices. The Congressional Budget Office estimates the bill could add trillions to the national debt. Trump's bill extends key provisions in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act while allocating new funds for broader security and defense. It passed the White House in May and awaits Senate action. Trump said his focus remains on economic recovery and national stability, but he indicated he's open to future collaborations with Musk, stating, in quote, "We have to straighten out the country first." Musk had recently softened his rhetoric, acknowledging in a new X post that his previous remarks went too far. Trump responded by calling the gesture very nice and reiterated that the proposed legislation would rapidly improve the nation's economic standing. The exchange underscores ongoing tensions between fiscal conservatives and innovation leaders as the administration seeks to drive growth while managing national debt. Let's take a look.
Well, I have no hard feelings. You know, I was really surprised that happened. He went after a bill that's phenomenal. It's the best thing we've ever signed in this country, and that's phase one. Phase two, phase three, all of a sudden is it all comes together. It's coming together so well. And when he did that, I was not a happy camper. So it's too bad.
You said he had problems. What kind of problems? I mean, is it the drugs?
I don't know what his problem is, really. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about him in the last little while, but the bill is so good. When he went after the bill, this bill is going to turn around this country so fast your head will spin. It's good for everyone. It's also a tax cut. It's a massive tax cut. It's an extension of debt, which we need. We have to get that. And then we're going to start paying off debt at record levels. It's tariffs on certain people. It's, by the way, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security.
All your promises.
Yeah. And I mean, it's no tax on overtime. If a worker works overtime, there's no tax. That's going to be a great stimulant for the country. No, I think the bill is great. And
he just didn't
I think
get that.
He feels very badly that he said that, actually.
And maybe it was something else. I mean, he had the fight with Scott Besson outside your office.
Yeah, well, they had not a fist fight, people, but I guess they had a little bit of a shouting match. But that's
Did you hear it?
That's typical. I heard it a little bit. That's sort of typical about,
Yeah.
that happens.
You were very kind to him. I saw you together, and I think he treated you a bit like a father. And
I was disappointed
in
him, but it is what it is. That happens. Things like that happen. I don't blame him for anything. That I was a little disappointed.
Could you reconcile?
Say it?
Could you reconcile with him, do you think? Could you forgive him?
I guess I could, but, we have to straighten out the country.
Yeah.
And my sole function now is getting this country back to a level higher than it's ever been. And I think we can do that. I think we're going to do it easily.
Google has initiated another round of voluntary buyouts across key divisions as the company braces for a federal antitrust ruling that could force the breakup of its core search operations. The move affects workers in search, advertising, research, and engineering, according to internal sources. Google, which employs the majority of Alphabet Inc.'s 186,000 global staff, said the program is aimed at streamlining its workforce ahead of important work. The buyout comes as U.S. District Judge Amit Mehid considers remedies following last year's ruling that declared Google's search engine an illegal monopoly. The Justice Department is seeking restrictions on payments to default partners like Apple and a potential divestiture of the Chrome browser. A ruling is expected by Labor Day, which could open the door to a lengthy appeals process by Google. At the same time, the company is pushing employees back to a hybrid schedule, particularly those living near Google offices. These efforts are part of a broader cost-cutting initiatives, including ongoing headcount reductions that begin with 12,000 layoffs in early 2023. Google has since trimmed smaller units to maintain profitability while investing heavily in artificial intelligence. AI has become central to Google's future strategy, with its search platform transitioning to a more conversational model. The company faces rising pressures from competitors and regulators as it adapts to changing user behavior and legal uncertainty. Executives continue to emphasize operational efficiency while navigating one of the most consequential antitrust cases in recent tech history. A bipartisan coalition of 42 state attorney generals, led by New York Attorney General Letitia James, is urging Meta to take stronger actions against fraudulent investment scams on Facebook. The scams, which misuse the image of public figures such as Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, and Cathie Wood, have reportedly caused millions in losses to unsuspecting retail investors. According to James, criminals are successfully bypassing Meta's automated and manual ad review system to promote fake financial opportunities. Victims are often directed on WhatsApp chat groups where they are targeted in pump and dump schemes involving thinly traded stocks. Despite prior warnings from state officials, James and Meta has failed to prevent these ads from reappearing. The attorneys general called on Meta to increase human oversight of investment-related ads and, if unable to police the problem effectively, to suspend such advertising altogether. Meta has faced similar criticism globally, including a lawsuit in Australia where its platform allegedly promoted scams using a billionaire's likeness through an automated ads system. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, has struggled to contain a growing number of cyber scams. Critics say its advertising platform has become a central channel for financial fraud. The attorneys general emphasized the need for better consumer protections, warning Americans to exercise caution before trusting investment offers promoted on social media platforms. The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
The life of a soldier is not just a job, it's a calling and a sacred tradition passed down from father to son, brother to sister, and one generation to the next. At every hour of danger, our noblest citizens have answered that call. Time and again, our enemies have learned that if you dare to threaten the American people, American soldier will chase you down, crush you, and cast you into oblivion. The last sound you ever hear will be the dueling howl of Black Hawks. Thunderous boom of artillery fire. Or the ferocious roar of a U.S. Army infantry brigade. For our adversaries, there's no greater fear than the United States Army. Now it's your duty to shield the flame of freedom that was first lit 250 years ago by the heroes of Concord Bridge and Bunker Hill. Standing before you today, I am more confident than ever that in the days ahead and every generation to come, the U.S. Army will heap glory upon glory. You will protect every inch of U.S. soil, and you will defend America to the ends of the earth.
Welcome back. South Korea's military announced it has suspended its loudspeaker propaganda broadcast aimed at North Korea. The decision is part of a broader initiative by newly elected President Lee Jae-myung to reduce tensions and restore dialogue with Pyongyang. The broadcast, which resumes in June of 2024 after a 6-year pause, were a response to North Korea's use of balloons filled with trash to provoke the South. The loudspeakers have historically played news and information about democracy and life in South Korea, which the North considers an act of war. The suspension comes shortly after Lee's election victory, marking a shift from the hardline approach of former President Yoon Suk-yeol, who was impeached last year. Lee's campaigned on improving inter-Korean relations and restoring peace on the peninsula. While human rights advocates criticize the move as weakening efforts to reach North Korean citizens, residents near the border welcomed the end of the broadcast, citing disrupted daily life. South Korea's military emphasized that the broadcast could resume if provocations from North Korea restart. Watch this.
South Korea's military said on Wednesday it has stopped blasting K-pop and other propaganda towards North Korea. The suspension came nearly a year after the country resumed the loudspeaker broadcasts during a time of growing tension with its neighbor. It makes good on a promise by the South's new president Lee Jae-myung, who took office this month, also vowing to resume dialogue and restore a suspended military pact with Pyongyang. Lee's spokesperson said the president ordered the preemptive measure to ease tensions and build trust. A ruling party lawmaker urged for a response from Pyongyang, calling in a statement for it to, quote, please stop broadcasting noise at the south. Residents near the heavily fortified border have opposed the loudspeaker broadcasts, complaining of severe noise nuisance. South Korea's military said last year it resumed a round-the-clock campaign of broadcasts after Pyongyang sent balloons carrying trash over the border. Pyongyang had said the balloons were in retaliation to North Korean defectors and activists in the south sending inflatables with anti-Pyongyang leaflets and other items across the border.
The European Space Agency has released the first video and images of the sun's south pole captured by its solar orbiter spacecraft. These unprecedented observations offer a clearer view of the sun's atmosphere and magnetic activity, aiding scientists in understanding solar cycles and improving forecasts of space weather. The new footage reveals shimmering plasma at temperatures of up to 1 million degrees Celsius, alongside cooler gas clouds measuring around 100,000 degrees. These images are the most detailed of the sun ever recorded and may help explain how the sun transitions between calm periods and intense solar storms. Scientists have long sought to understand how the sun's magnetic poles flip approximately every 11 years, a process that influences solar flares activity and space weather. The solar orbiter is now providing critical data on how magnetic fields move across the solar surface and migrate towards the poles, previously a missing element in solar models. ESA Solar Orbiter also captured chemical activity using its SPICE instrument, tracking the movement of elements like hydrogen and oxygen across various solar layers. These findings are expected to enhance models that forecast solar storms, which can disrupt satellite communications and power grids on Earth. Let's take a look.
What if we could look at the sun from a whole new angle? One we've never seen before. For the first time, Solar Orbiter has captured close-up images of the sun's mysterious poles, regions long hidden from view. Until now, every image of the sun you've ever seen was taken around its equator. That's because Earth, the other planets, and most spacecraft travel in a flat orbit around the sun. But Solar Orbiter is different. In 2025, it tilted its path out of this plane, giving us a first ever look at the sun's south pole. Remarkably, it found both the north and south magnetic fields tangled together. This is a sign that the sun is at the peak of its 11-year activity cycle, when its magnetic poles flip. With its powerful instruments, Solar Orbiter captures what's happening in the sun's outer layers, from its surface, through the layers in between, all the way to the outer atmosphere. This is key to understanding solar wind and solar storms, which can disrupt satellites, power grids, and radio signals here on Earth. As Solar Orbiter climbs to even higher orbits over the next years, its view will become even clearer, bringing us more views we've never seen before.
Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. President Trump says U.S.-China trade deal is done. Final approval pending. Secretary Hegseth defends Marine deployment to L.A. amid Senate scrutiny. Deported illegal immigrant charged with attempted murder after Molotov cocktail attack on police during L.A. riots. President Trump open to reconciling with Elon Musk after public feud over federal spending bill. State Attorney General call on Meta to crack down on investment scams on Facebook. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Barbara Sam. Good night and God bless you.